Now let's look at C and D. Notice in C we have 100 to the 3 halves. Again, let's deal with the 2 on the denominator first, which means we're going to start by taking the square root of 100 first, which is 10. And then we'll take care of the 3 as an exponent, the cubed, second. So if we cube what we just got, our 10, second, that will give us our final answer of, well, 10 cubed is 1,000. So that's our final answer for part C. In part D, notice we have negative 16 to the 3 halves. Now, something subtle that really does matter is that there are no parentheses around the negative 16. So that when we look at this 2 on the bottom that we turn into a square root, it means we start by taking the square root of only 16. Well, the square root of 16 just by itself is the answer, 4. Still have to deal with my exponents first, which means I'm going to deal with my cubed first, which means now I have to take what I just got out and cube. Well, 4 cubed is 4 times 4 times 4, which is 64. Now the question is, what do I do with that minus sign? Well, that's what's going to go on at the end, which means my answer, whatever I'm getting, is just going to be a negative answer at the end, which means my final answer is negative 64. Let's look at a couple more problems. Let's look at E. Notice again, we do have parentheses on this next one. So let's look at this. We have negative 64 in parentheses to the 2/3. So we'll start out with the denominator, which tells us to start out with taking the cube root of, well, the entire thing is in parentheses, so the cube root of negative 64. So what number multiplied by itself 3 times gives us the number negative 64? And that is the number negative 4. But I can't forget the numerator, which was a 2, which tells me I need to square whatever I'm getting out. Notice I had parentheses around it before. I should still have parentheses around it now. So I'm actually squaring the entire negative 4, which means I'm doing a negative 4 times a negative 4, which is actually going to give me a positive 16. So my final answer here for E is positive 16. Let's look at translating F. We've got negative 36 to the 3 halves. Again, we'll start with the denominator, which, because there are parentheses, tells me to start by taking the square root of a negative 36. And I'm going to go ahead and stop there. The question is why? Well, because now I have an even root of a negative number. What this asks is what number multiplied by itself twice gives us a negative 36. Well, there is no number that if you multiply it together twice will give you a negative number, at least not a real number. So we're going to say the answer is not a real number. And the only reason why we're coming up with this answer is because we have an even root, a square root, with the negative being on the inside